How do you ship your cards? What's happening, collectors? We're talking today about shipping cards. How do you ship your cards, your Pokemon cards, your sports cards? How do you ship them in the mail, and how do you do it properly? This video has been requested by a number of people, actually, which is wonderful. And I will say I have made some mistakes in the past, but I have learned from other people that have shipped me things, other people online. So this is actually going to be very helpful, I think, for you. So first and foremost, I'm going to show you, and as you saw at the very beginning, surprisingly, the thing that people will appreciate more than anything else is painter's tape. This painter's tape is going to be so important for how you ship because it secures things very well on the inside of the box, cards together, without leaving a film. And I can tell you that there are people that ship in top loaders, and I end up actually throwing them out. They ship in top loaders, and you'll get residue and things like that. So if you look here, you see this is what happens when you ship with just regular tape, and it leaves a film. It's annoying. You then have a top loader that's pretty useless at the point. It does its job, but it's less than ideal. Painter's tape is great. So that is number one tip right there. Now, the important thing to actually talk about is, who are you shipping this to? Is this someone you've sold to on eBay? Is this somebody you have made a trade with online? Is this going to PSA or Beckett or other grading companies? So there is actually a different way that you're probably going to want to ship all of these, depending who you're shipping to. So we're going to start with grading companies. I'm going to talk specifically about Beckett and PSA because they're the two largest. And if you are shipping direct to them, you must use a Card Saver one. This is what they prefer that you ship in, and the reason why is because it is flexible. And the reason why they like that is it is easier for them to use because they, for the most part, will actually just cut your card out of it. Because if you're using a top loader and they've got to, get their fingers in there, they do risk damaging the edge. So that's why they like Card Savers, and they will actually cut it out. So it wrecks the Card Saver, but it protects your card. With that being said, if you are shipping to Ludkins or any other third-party company, and as I've done videos on Ludkins collectibles in the past, you can, in fact, they prefer you to ship them in top loaders. Myself, I like shipping them in Card Saver ones because they are just, the less people that need to handle it, the better. That's just my feeling. So I'm going to show you something here. This is some cards that I have that are actually going to be going to Beckett at some point. These are all sports cards here, but the way that I do mine is that I will actually stick, these are little post-it notes. So my card, so say for example, this is a valuable card. This is a Rose Tower Reverse Hollow. What I would be doing is I am loading them into, obviously, a penny saver. I would then be grabbing a post-it note. I'd be grabbing one of these, and I would stick it on the back here. And that is the way that I can make my life easier for putting it in, but more importantly, the person that's grading it gives them, I would say, an impression that I am being very careful with my cards. So when you've got a card saver like this, I'd be putting it in the sleeve here, and now you've got an easy way to get it out. Now, again, as I mentioned, they're likely going to be cutting it out, but this does allow you to easily pull it out without damaging the card. So that is something, that's kind of a little tip anyways. But again, if you are shipping direct to Beckett or PSA, you must use these Card Saver ones. So that is very important. Now, if I'm shipping it to somebody, if I've made a trade or I sold something on eBay or on one of the marketplaces out there, I, for the most part, am going to be using these top loaders. This is just a mostly rigid top loader that will protect the cards. And in this instance, I will try and use, these sleeves, just because it does have a little bit more of a structure than your penny sleeves. So that is my preference. So if I'm shipping, this Ponyta as an example, and we know my daughter loves Ponyta, I'm going to be taking this and I'm going to be putting it in a Card Saver. These are, I believe they call them, they're top loaders, is most well known. And often I will actually put 2 cards in it just because it is fairly safe, and most top loaders you will be able to get 2 into it safely. But be careful, some are thinner than others, so you definitely don't want to damage the cards by putting too much into them. And same with penny sleeves. If you do decide to do penny sleeves, you can fit multiple cards into a penny sleeve. Now, one thing I do want to mention as well. So say, for example, I'm shipping a guy, you know, a handful of cards, or girl, and I've got this Ponyta, and I've got these, you know, other cards. I've got a Toxapex and an Arctozolt, and I'm going to take, you know, and let's grab one more just for good measure here, and a Galarian Darmanitan. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to probably put if these cards are, obviously, if they're all rares and they're all good cards, I wouldn't be putting together like this. I'd be putting them in obviously separate sleeves, but if they are, you know, uncommons or things that are of less value, I would likely put them in like this. And then there are these little plastic sleeves that just hold everything together very, very nicely. So I could put those in there. It's got this little tab you peel and you seal it down. And that does hold everything in place, which is very, very handy for people. You know, if you're buying a lot of things and shipping a lot of cards, it's nice to be able to protect them in this way. And it also does give a good presentation to who's receiving it. And as mentioned, if you don't have these, because not a lot of people will have access to these sleeves, you have a few other options. So obviously you've got different top loaders you can do, and sometimes top loaders aren't an option for whatever reason. The next best thing I would say is pieces of cardboard. Now these are just cut pieces from a Beware GX box that I had sitting beside me, but you can, you know, put things together here and tape them up. And again, as mentioned at the very beginning, use painter's tape because it is easy to get off. And again, if you are going to be taping right onto a top loader, it won't leave a residue. It's easy to peel off, but it's strong enough that things are not going to move. Now, when we're talking about shipping things to, again, people, not talking about PSA or Beckett, you have options. You've got a plain white envelope, and then you've got bubble mailers of varying sizes. So depending on what you are shipping. The trick to making your shipments the most cost-effective for you, because obviously you don't want to pay a fortune, if you're going to be shipping, let's say, this many cards, and it's going to be this thick, if you put this into an envelope, that is less than ideal. This is going to cost you an absolute fortune if you ship it this way. The trick with most postal services, especially if you're going to be using bubble mailers or plain white mailers, plain white envelopes, the flatter you can go, the better. So rather than shipping it in a stack like, you know, a stack like this, you're going to want to put it into 2 smaller stacks side by side. So, and again, this is a bit of an extreme scenario when you're going this big, but say for example, you have, you know, this many cards, but times 2, you're going to be putting them in, you know, cardboard or something like that. You want them to ideally go long ways because you have enough in a plain white envelope to put 2 batches there. It will still be heavy, but it will be thin enough. You're going to get better rates. And honestly, it's going to be a little bit safer if you have an evenly distributed piece of mail. And that's the same with bubble mailers as well. You want to go as thin as you can, not to take away from the protection of the cards. That is very, very important. If you're choosing to protect with top loaders and cardboard, that's excellent. That's fantastic. I don't think you need to have super duper, you know, thick cardboard. Again, that's just going to raise your cost to ship the product. It's best to, you know, become a little bit more comfortable, practice in how you're going to actually package things and give them a test, see how flexible they are. Again, for the most part, the mail service isn't going to go like this. You know, they're not going to, you know, purposefully damage things, but it can happen. So you need to prepare for that, you know, rare instance where things will get bent like that. So you want it to be as rigid as you possibly can make it. Now, when we're talking about shipping to PSA or Beckett, you know, you can go down this route as well, or if you're shipping to Ludkins or other third-party companies that are going to go through the grading company, you know, you're likely, if you're sending it in to get graded, it has value, whether monetarily or, you know, sentimental value to yourself. So you want to probably overdo it, as much overdoing it as you can. So if I'm shipping this many cards, yes, could I get it in a bubble mailer like this? Yes, you definitely can. And honestly, in this particular instance, if it's only, what is this? 6 cards, 7 cards here, I probably could get away with this. I'd put in 2 really sturdy pieces of cardboard. I'd put it in between there. I'd probably put them, long ways like this, and I would tape the heck out of it so it's as rigid and cards are not going to move around. That's probably what I would do. And then obviously if it's going to PSA or Beckett, paperwork has to go in there as well. But the more safe way, and again, these are valuable cards, and likely you're shipping probably more than 7. I would choose a box. And inside that box, yeah, this is obviously far too much room for 7 cards, but inside that box, you can stuff it with newspaper, with bubble wrap, with all sorts of things to protect it. And I would highly recommend that, especially if you've never done it before. Overdo it. It's way better to overdo it than to underdo it. So that is definitely something to be considered. So just as a recap, it's pretty simple stuff, but painter's tape, trust me, your customers, the people you're sending it to will love you if you use painter's tape. You will be despised if you use just regular tape, because it is less than ideal to take off. If anyone's had to take that off of the top of a top loader before, it's not fun. Card Saver ones. This is what you're looking for, okay? And there are other companies than Card Saver One. Ultra Pro does make their own version of this as well, a little bit smaller version, but semi-rigid. Top loaders are great, but again, this is more for your sales, trades, things like that. You've got obviously your sleeves. Those are for, I would say, trades, not going to Beckett or PSA. And then you've got, of course, your penny sleeves. These are all important things that you need to do. And again, if you're like me and you want to be as careful with your cards and be prepared, these little post-it note things are pretty fantastic for that as well. So that's about everything. I hope this was helpful. If you do have any questions, leave a comment down below, and I'd love to hear if you have any recommendations to how you ship your cards, because I'm obviously looking for better ways to do it and cheaper ways to ship product, but to get there ultimately safely and quickly. Love to hear your feedback. If you like this video, please hit subscribe. I do Pokemon card openings, Beckett returns, PSA returns, Pokemon news, that kind of stuff on this channel, so I would love to have you here. Thanks for watching. My name is the Millennial Collector. See you next time.